Hey guys, I'm here with Rhina at the drop stop in Woolgoolga. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Kaz, is it?
Kaz.
Kaz and Rog. And remind me, where am I again? Been moving.
Been moving.
All right, Kaz and Rog. So I'm here with Tara at Kind Brew. We're in Coffs Harbour. This is one of her 2 sites. She's also got another trailer in Woolgoolga. How are you, Tara?
Yeah, I'm well, thanks.
All right, so I'm here with John at Foxy Ice Cream Business. John, thanks for having me.
Yep,
I just wanted
no
to catch you on a busy, beautiful day here in Coffs Harbour. I guess I just want to find out your input on pros and cons of owning, running, operating a coffee business. Is there any, I guess, hot tips for someone that's interested in owning a business like this? Coffee trailers. Are they as easy as you think they're going to be? Are they the dream that everyone's looking at? Today, I want to talk you through a lot of the things that I've learned while talking to people about whether they should take one on, all the things to think about. Ryan and I spent some time traveling around our local area, speaking to actual owners of coffee trailers and finding out what they love about it, what they hate about it. So this video, I'm going to break down everything from power, water, waste, storage, council, plenty of things that you need to think about if you're considering coffee trailers. And I am focusing on coffee trailers. There are a bunch of other options from a movable food vendor license style business that might be up your alley. I'm not going to go into the breakdown of all the different ones from vans to shipping containers. Today I'm focusing on coffee trailers. A lot of this will relate across the board for all of the different options, but let's talk coffee trailers. Did you buy the trailer fully set up?
We did?
Yeah?
Yep.
Bit easier that way?
Yes.
Did you have to customise it in any way?
No, we didn't. It's a very well set up trailer, so
Okay.
it was kind of ready to go.
Bit of an early investment then, I guess?
Yes.
Firstly, budget. This is something you want to keep track of throughout the whole process. And I know the first thing that people want to look at is the caravan. It's the first thing that people generally find themselves being inspired by. You're looking at a vintage little caravan that's really cute, and that's what you're thinking you're going to spend the bulk of your money on. When realistically, there is a lot of things across the journey that you're going to need to factor into your budget to get started.
I guess in the beginning, like having it in my front yard was a little bit of a challenge because I wasn't able to sort of like separate my work from home.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's actually, I've grown to really love it and it's become very convenient for me.
Yeah.
You also need a fixed location so customers reliably will come to you. It's sort of like this is a home base and from here we move out.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the reason that we do so well is given our location.
One of the biggest challenges people have is, I guess, towing in and out every day, setting up, packing up, compared to a fixed cafe. Would you do this setup again, or would you have thought about doing a fixed location?
Probably after doing it for 5 years, we'd go for a fixed location.
Yeah. Would you do it if you lost this spot and had to go into a higher traffic industrial estate?
Potentially.
Yeah.
Like there's so many factors to consider too, like where I live, how long I'm driving the car in and out.
Yeah.
So it's about convenience for me and my lifestyle too.
Location is critical to the success of any coffee trailer. I really think that your location that you pick is going to have a big impact on the type of customers you're going to get, whether they're going to be there on a regular daily cycle or not. Now, picking a location can be not as easy as you think, because it's quite often not up to you. You will need to talk to your local councils. You will need to find out if there's already a vendor there. But a lot of the considerations we're about to talk through will impact your choice of location. Don't get carried away thinking that you can just pick any location. That is generally not the case. And sometimes the most beautiful spots aren't the most practical for you to actually run the business day to day. You might be looking at a location that's not as inspiring as you might have thought, but you might find that actually is far more practical to run your business and potentially more profitable in the end. And the holy grail, the free site. Is it possible? Not that I've really seen. There is very limited options on free sites, even if you're on someone's property. There's obviously still connections to power or other things that you need, but it's potentially something you could find. I would really look into this first. Even if you have a caravan, you really want to make sure that you actually have a location to put it, and that is a little bit of a chicken before the egg thing, but it's definitely something to start talking to your council about what the regulations are. Do you have do you pay council fees? I know council is really challenging in most locations, in cafes as well, with trailers too. Like you can't just pick any spot. I think a lot of people come to me and they're like, I just want to put a trailer there, and you're like, well, have you spoken to council? And then they realise how many hoops there are to jump through. Did you have to jump through hoops? Are you still jumping through hoops and paying?
I will say, okay, so I think initially to get the spot you want is tricky, and it's a little bit luck. This spot showing up when I had a coffee cart ready to go was luck. But I will say I'm super grateful that it is secured through council, because otherwise I would show up here in the morning and there would be 4 other coffee carts trying to demand the same spot. So there's pros and cons to that. Once you kind of secure the lease, you've got that length of time. I think through this council, it's usually about 3 years that you can secure. After that, you cannot guarantee the spot again. You have to reapply and it's opened back up to the public. So again, I'm going to say that's luck. So there is a level of uncertainty in running your business through a council lease, because they will not continue to renew your lease. You have to reapply.
We sort of, because we're a non-fixed business and we're on wheels, we didn't really have a lot of hoops that we needed to jump through. We were sort of just had to register with the council, and that was probably it, I think.
Great.
You know, like we've just had to re-tender for our sites here, and our costs went up 37% from council.
Well.
And you know, like everybody's stinging you.
Councils and permits are probably one of the biggest things that stop people in their tracks. It really slows down the process. I would allow months for council process. This is because they already take on a lot of inquiries from coffee trailers, and they're processing them constantly, and they do get a lot of time wasted. So they like it if you can come to them with a bit more information, find out what your business is, what you're potentially buying, what you're selling. Now remember, there's other local businesses around certain locations that will be impacted by you going in there. So the council's job is not to slow you down. The council's job is to actually ensure that you are not impacting the business of other places around you. Of course, we want the areas to grow and thrive, but if you open a coffee shop near another business, especially if you're pulling up your caravan and you don't have a permit, that is what the permits are for. We don't want to offend or take away business from existing places. If you had a cafe and a caravan pulled up out the front and started stealing your business, you would not be happy about that. So the council's job is to help you do that. You do need to follow the steps. There is a lot more to it than you think. There's certificates that you'll need to get, food handling certificates, your vendor's license, and just make sure you apply for all of those things and get them done. Give yourself plenty of time to keep council happy, and potentially you might be able to find a site that's going to give you a long-term lease, and that lease is actually what's going to save you the day that you pull up to that site and there's another caravan there. They have to go because you have the lease. So it is important for you.
Right. We get asked all the time, and I feel like a lot of times people come here to order a coffee, get the idea to invite us to the event, and then that's kind of how we continue to grow into the event scene as well.
Events are, I guess, a income source. Like you find them, they really pay for themselves. I know that we get a lot of inquiries about events, and people say, do you have a trailer I can borrow for the weekend? That would be a big expense for us to have a trailer just sitting there ready for events. But you're finding it's viable to be able to pull this in and out.
Absolutely.
Cool.
Yeah, I love the events. It's just fun, something different. We get more clients that way. People see us at an event, they know that we're parked here now, they come get coffee here now. So it's a win-win.
Okay.
If you're planning on just doing one location all the time, like a lot of coffee shops do, that'll work. But then they're missing out on travelling to the events where you make your real money.
Are you doing events?
Yeah, we do events.
Great. And you feel like that's a good source of income for you?
We'll make more than 2 times our weekly income at any sort of halfway event, and a good event will do 4 times our weekly income.
No, we don't. We built such a successful business here that we didn't need to do events, and most events are on weekends. Weekends are our busiest days, so we prefer to stay here and look after the customers that have supported us through the business.
Sure.
About knowing how many people are going to be at the event, is there other coffee, is there other food, and just kind of weigh up, what you think would happen. Sometimes it is a bit of a gamble and a guessing game, but it doesn't hurt to at least try. And then I guess the other things would be, again, access to water, access to power, and maybe having staff on standby or just bringing a second person with you. So there's extra costs involved in that as well. So if it is going to be a high turnover volume event, I would always have a second person. So considering those costs in as well.
Sure.
Some events do ask for a payment to be there. Some are free. So it's quite an interesting gamble with that. And I would consider that in your costs as well. It's not always worth paying to be at an event if you can just operate in your normal day to day. So there are some things to consider, but I would say don't expect everyone to buy a coffee. It'd be great if they do, but it's not always the case. So even if they tell you it's going to be a 500 person event, you might get 100 coffee sales. So just consider those things and kind of aim on the lower side.
Now I'm bringing up events because this, with your location, with your permits and everything you're going to need, all of a sudden you want to go out and do an event. Now, is this a positive for your business? Is it the goal that you're going for? Do you want to be able to do events? Do you want to be able to head to the markets on the weekend and grab that extra bit of trade? Events can be a really great cash injection for the business. You know that there's going to be 1,000 people at a festival. Maybe 10% of them are drinking coffee. That's 100 coffees in a small amount of time. You do have to do the maths. You do have to make sure the events are actually viable. And what does it look like when you're that busy? What is the costs? But events could be something that is helpful to you. Now, if you want to do events, you need to be set up to be able to be self-sufficient. That means you need to hold a lot of water. You need to have access to power through generators rather than power boxes. So events would mean that when you're looking at coffee trailers, consider whether you are happy to be in a fixed location and you potentially would only need to plug into power, or you've got access to water. But when you go and do events, you might need to be completely self-sufficient. So it's really an early decision that you need to make whether that's the business model you're going to go for, because it really impacts the setup moving forward. And when thinking about events, if you're trying to build a reputation for being a coffee trailer that's in a set spot, your customers are coming to you. If you're not there because you're leaving to do events, that is going to be detrimental to your normal day trade. So we want to make sure that we're not affecting our everyday trade by going off and doing events and kind of sporting it for your regular customers. Speaking of regular customers, are you on time and are you there?
Be consistent.
Sure.
Do the hours, do the hard work.
We always start the day no matter what the weather. Customers like that reliability.
Yeah, so I guess the main thing is it going to affect our normal trading? And if it is it worth the risk?
Sure. And how important is consistency to you?
100%.
100%?
We're here 6 days a week from 8:30 through to 5 every day. And during summer it's 8:30 to 7.
Consistency is key to any cafe. Consistency in any coffee shop is making a great cup of coffee, but being there. If a cafe with a fixed location isn't there when the customers think they're going to be open at 6:30, maybe the barista's late, or you just get a bit lazy, maybe you start to come in a bit late, that is detrimental to the business. And coffee trailers are not immune to this at all. We want to make sure that you have some set hours, and these are something you need to consider for your lifestyle, and that also impacts your location. If you don't want to work weekends, don't pick the most popular spot on the beach that you need to be there on the weekend to get the maximum trade. Maybe you like the weekends off and that suits your small family better, so you might compromise and go to somewhere like an industrial estate that's going to be more suited to a Monday to Friday. Now, that does mean that you're also going to be wanting to get there very early for the tradies to capitalize on the opportunity that's in the industrial estate. So your opening hours not only impact the reputation you get and the customers returning to you and being confident you're going to be there, but it will also impact your lifestyle. How early do you have to get up to get the best advantage for the location that you've chosen?
I think in October we will have been open for 2 years, and I think we've already gone through about 11 staff just in that time.
Okay, and got any staff that'll do it for you?
Yeah, my wife helps out and we hire casual staff at the events.
Okay.
Yeah, we have 4 people in here at a big event. We just can't do it.
Can you have a holiday?
Yeah, I've got a girl I can put in here now.
Okay.
Yeah,
it's a hard thing for a lot of people.
She's good, but her dad needs to tow the van down here. She can't tow the van.
Yeah.
But yeah, we've been using her now for a bit over 18 months, and yeah, Dad's friend, whole family's a friend, and yeah, so we can have a holiday, but generally with a van it's really hard work. You have a holiday, you lose your income.
Sure. Yeah.
So, you know, and that's basically what it is, has been for us for years.
Staff staffing's pretty good. Like, I'm fortunate this is the backdrop. We're at the beach. So I do find staffing's pretty good if you can get your hands on baristas or people wanting to be baristas. But it's casual work, so it always is going to ebb and flow. And also with this setup, we have someone tow a trailer, so there's a whole other element to that. Whereas if it can be permanent, then it's just kind of a lock and key sort of situation.
Sure. Every business should have a plan to allow you to have a holiday. Now, that holiday is only possible if you can staff the business, so it's ideal if you can staff the business. It can continue to trade and pay for itself or make you an income while you're having time off. So that's what staff's great for. But staff will also ensure that you can have a sick day, they can help you when you're busy, you can increase productivity, and you can kick your goals. Now, when you think about staff, there's a lot for a new staff member to learn, but you do need to take into consideration the towing capacity or the towing ability of that staff member if that is a part of the setup of the day. Now, if you're towing a caravan, the size of your caravan obviously will impact how towable it is, how comfortable it is, the car required. So I would think about that factor when you're thinking about staff. If you have a goal to have staff in this business, a lot of people look at a coffee trailer and think, I'm just going to set up a little side business and I'm already running a cafe, maybe I'll open a coffee trailer. It's a really common inquiry for me. But those people soon learn that they kind of need to be on site. How are they going to get the coffee trailer there? There is obviously the option, if you can fix it to a location and you can plug into power and you can secure it to the site, that is the opportunity to have a coffee trailer experience without having to put the expectation on staff to tow that. Equipment. This is the big one for me because I help supply equipment, but in coffee trailers I actually can't. There's insurance issues that tell me that I actually can't supply equipment into coffee trailers. Now, this means that it does put the expectation on the coffee trailer owner to buy equipment. I can definitely sell you coffee equipment for your coffee trailer. It's just not the same as a cafe with a fixed location that can potentially do a rental or a free on loan scenario. So you do have to factor that into your budget. You also have to factor in the limitations that you have. I, as a coffee person, would want to have a dual boiler machine, but I actually can only really access 15 amps of power. So a coffee trailer will come into power in a second, but I just wanted to focus on, I guess, the options that you have when it comes to equipment. Now, I'm talking coffee because I'm a coffee guy, but if your menu says that you want to do toasties, you need to find out how much power you're going to draw from your sandwich press and how many of those you're going to need. Maybe you want to do drinks and smoothies and milkshakes. That's great to have an offering, and we really want to determine that as early as possible because it is the thing that then helps you decide what equipment I'm going to need, how much power I'm going to need, what generators I'm going to have to buy, how big the van's going to be, and so start writing out your menu. But bringing it back to coffee, grinders are okay. They're pretty minimal on power. Once you start having multiple grinders, obviously, but the coffee machine is the most unique one. Now, coffee machines generally in a cafe, 3 group machines about 32 amps. That's massive. You can't do that. 20 amps is even hard to pull out of a generator. It would be massive and noisy and probably not ideal. 15 amps is a pretty safe bet. Now, this greatly reduces the amount of options of equipment that you can potentially use. So I would really do your research on 15 amp machines. Some of the options you'll come up to that we have used in the past, the San Remo Zoe competition tall machine, you can get that in a 15 amp machine and it works quite well. I've been happy with that. The limitations of a 15 amp versus a 20 is how much power can you draw to refill the boiler and keep the steam pressure. If you're at an event, you will notice on a 15 amp machine, you're starting to lose a bit of steam pressure if you're really constantly making coffee. If you do have to use a 10 amp machine, that's what you're missing out on, is that machine just coming back up to heat and making sure that you're always generating good amount of steam and you're able to get consistent shot times. The other options I've seen that work are a 15 amp Expo Bar Mega Creme. An oldie but a goodie. It's been in many trailers, and you can make reasonable coffee on that machine. There is compact machines. There is the San Remo Zoe Compact. There is the Expo Bar Compact, and they can be a 10 amp. That might be the only option you have for power. It's also a much smaller footprint. Takes up a lot less space. But they would be some machines you'd look into, because the next machine you're going to find when you Google coffee machines for trailers is the Francino gas machine. This is a part gas, part power. There might be other machines. I know that's just one brand that we've looked at. Some of the things that I guess I'm concerned about when I'm trying to make great coffee on part gas, I know, and I have been told, that on a windy day, the pilot will go out and the flame will actually go out. The gas is lighting and reigniting just to keep a boiler hot. The electronics and the buttons, everything else runs off a 10 amp, but a gas machine, great idea and concept. You just have to make sure that it's out of the wind, because it will literally blow the flame out and won't work. So that is one tip on the gas machines. My fear would be the detriment of a week of weather.
Yeah.
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 I think there's a bit more fear involved in that scenario.
For sure.
Security-wise,
Yeah.
for people to be able to know that they're going to have those customers each week.
Yeah.
And sometimes having a fixed location can
Yeah.
kind of offset some of that fear.
For sure.
When it's like raining for days on end, that can
Yeah.
definitely just be an issue. Given the fact that we're on grass, we've had to dump a whole lot of, what do you call that stuff?
Oh yeah, that would great.
We did have issues with that in the beginning because we're on the grass and it just turned into a bit of a mud pit.
Sure.
That was an issue.
Okay.
We still work no matter what the weather. We always start the day. If it gets too wet or dangerous or too windy, we'll just close earlier.
Sure.
But we always start the day no matter what the weather.
Yes.
So people are really weather dependent, and
Yeah.
yes, we do have regulars that will still come rain or shine.
Yeah.
It can really play a part on it though. Weather can also be wind, so wind scares people away as well.
The amount of people that I spoke to that said weather was probably one of the biggest things of whether they're going to make money this week or have customers. It sucks when it rains in a coffee trailer. There is no doubt about it. It's as simple as you might have an awning. It holds, bit of shade, but that becomes just all the water falls on the awning and can actually flow back into your caravan. So think about that. Maybe it's an annex, maybe it's some other shelter, but definitely not only does it make it hard for you to trade and just do business, but it really deters customers from coming to your coffee trailer to get their daily coffee. As silly as it is, people will literally not come to you just because it's a windy day. If you've picked a location that's a beautiful spot on a gorgeous sunny day, it might not be very nice on a windy, rainy day, or even an overcast day. Someone's not going to go for their morning walk, so you're going to miss out on that trade. So you really need to consider that. Plus, the area that you're on, the ground that you're on. If you're towing in and out of a grassed area, it's going to get boggy. And you want to make sure that the ground is suitable for customers and they're going to get a nice experience if they come to you on a rainy day. So you do have the perspective of both sites.
Yeah.
And you were towing and now it's fixed.
Yeah, it's fixed.
Enjoying that?
Enjoying it so that I'm not constantly towing coffee carts.
How's the security on it?
Yeah, great.
Yeah?
Yeah, we haven't
Because
had
that was
any
the concern
issues.
originally before
Yeah.
it was fixed, was
Yeah.
leaving a trailer in a location on a main road, and
Yeah.
security's been alright and
Security's
vandalism.
been so good, no
Okay.
problems so far. Whoopee is very secure, it's bolted down.
Yeah.
Whereas, I just wouldn't be able to do events with that trailer even if I wanted to.
Yeah. Caravans are just like a vehicle, they need to be insured, and you need to think about the security and the insurance on your caravan for who's towing it, so that's your staff, or is it in a fixed location? So make sure you do your research, because if you're leaving it in a fixed location, you want to make sure it's definitely secured to that spot and it's definitely going to avoid vandalism or anything that could potentially damage your caravan.
I do find with it all though, is just the vehicles to tow the trailers, the parking of the trailers at home, and if you can't reverse a trailer, it's really hard. I'm
Sure.
ex-truck driver, I won't put it
Yeah.
wherever I want it, but a lot of people struggle.
Yeah. How do you find towing the trailer every day?
That's Roger's job, and
Yeah.
he's an ex-truck driver, so it's not a problem.
Not a problem? Yeah.
It's pretty easy.
Usually when you buy a food trailer, it's a square block that you're going to tow.
Yeah.
It's like dragging a big brick behind you.
Towing is comfortable for some people, not for others. Can you tow a caravan comfortably? Now, the thing that I like to remind people of, and I hate to crush their dreams, but hitching up a caravan at 4 o'clock in the morning sucks. It just does. So you might be half asleep, you haven't had your coffee, and you've got to reverse the car up, hitch up a caravan, hook it on, and drive down. Now, we've got to think about that being done well too. You want to make sure that you're spending the time to hook yourself up and do what's called a 2-minute touch. That's walking around the whole vehicle and the full towing setup. Make sure your chains are attached, make sure the ball's on, and we are doing a safety check before and after you tow. So in the morning, when you hook on, you tow it out. In the afternoon, or before you leave, you make sure you're fully hooked on. I've heard a bunch of horror stories of caravans coming off and dragging by the chains, and it's not fun for anyone. And it can potentially impact your trade. If anything happens to your van, your business goes down. So you want to make sure that your towing is on point, it's not dangerous, and it's as safe as it can possibly be. Ideally, if you don't have to unhook, that's great. But you do then inhibit your vehicle. So you want to make sure that you're confident with towing. And like I said, if you are expecting staff to tow, you want to make sure they're confident as well. So this is a 10-foot Spitfire.
Yeah, I think it's
10?
actually 8.
8-foot
Yeah,
Spitfire?
where it's teeny tiny.
Yeah.
That's what I was going to say. I would suggest smaller is better. This
Yeah.
is probably a 2-person trailer, but it's able to do all the things we want to do, except for if we were adding in lots of food choices, which I would actually go smaller.
Yeah.
So all of the people I've trained to tow have said they love it.
Yeah.
I think it stands out a little bit more being smaller.
Okay.
I get heaps of traffic of people who want to take a selfie with our caravan.
Sure.
And yeah, it's just ease. It's convenient.
Yeah.
It's like if you've got limited parking at home, convenient. It can fit anywhere. I've had days where I have to go to the shops with the caravan, and I easily can do that. So I definitely suggest the small. I think it's easy. It's easier to clean. It's easier to tow.
Yeah.
There's just a lot of perks to it, and you don't need much more than this. And I think that's sort of the misconception, is that you need a huge coffee cart.
What size caravan are you going to buy? Now, size does matter in this case. Are you looking at your full menu? Have you designed your menu? If you haven't, you need to do that first, because how do you know how much room you need? Do you need a barista and someone on the till, or a chef, or someone cooking and prepping? How many people do you physically need in this caravan to operate in the way that you're envisioning? Do you need multiple people? Do you need just yourself? The towing capacity is going to be a part of it, whether your vehicle can even tow a caravan of a larger size, whether you do want the staff, so the size of your caravan there, and the look and the feel of it. Is it the look and size that you want, and something that you're comfortable with? I would say smaller is fine in this case. We've had some feedback from others that have said they love their small caravan. It's really simple, and then there's other operators that they really want to have a full food menu. Their spend per head on a customer would be much higher because of their food offering, and that requires multiple staff, requires grills, hot plates, and fryers, and all of those things come at a cost of size. So you do need to make sure you know what your full menu is before you choose your size. How is it getting home? Do you have a big process when you get home?
No, I'd clean up everything here before leaving site.
Yeah.
So it's just the next morning I top up the water tanks, check everything, do the daily shopping that I need for what we're going to use that day, and go from there.
Okay. Most of us think about going to work, and we walk in the door, we've got to prepare and dial in and pull out our stock. That's still what you have to do, but you do have to think about before and after trading as part of your day's work. So that's hitching up in the morning, towing that trailer, pulling out all of the stock, and then also at the end of the day packing all that stock down. Remember, it's a trailer. You can't drive with everything on the bench. Some equipment we're going to fix to the bench. You can get clever with your storage, but we want to make sure that we do need to pack everything down. So it's probably at least an hour at the end of the day that I've seen, and at least an hour, maybe more, at the start of the day. So you have to allow for that time and that work. But you also need to remember that when you drive that van back to your home, or wherever that is going to live, you got to think about what happens when you get back there. When you're at home, do you have a PowerPoint that's powerful enough to run the fridges and everything overnight, or are you going to have to unload everything out of the fridge, put it in the fridge that afternoon, and then take it back out the next morning for trade? This is something that I've seen in many coffee trailers, people going home and they do have to completely unload all of the cold things, walk up a big driveway because they can't get the trailer up there and they don't have the power point. So it is definitely an afterthought for a lot of people, but it's really important because when you go home, that's potentially when you'll restock. You want to make sure that you might have a power point to plug into and water to refill and bins on hand for those things as well. So think about before and after your shift.
Yeah, I guess the only con is that, you've got limited, not so much space. It's crazy what you can do with a small trailer like this, but you do have limited resources. So
stock and supplies. Now, we have customers that will drive to us and they have to pick up their stock. The delivery drivers aren't confident that they're going to be there, and they also don't potentially have a fixed location. They might move. So remember that if you have suppliers, you will have to make arrangements with them that you are going to pick up the stock or pick up the supplies, and that can add another trip to your end of your day. You might live close to home, but if your milk supplier is on the other side of town, you might have to do a loop and find someone closer to you. It's a bit of an outlay. It's a fair cost. I mean, people are often surprised by the cost of trailers when they start pricing them, especially when you buy nice ones. And they don't always come perfect, fully fitted out, and there's a bit of work to get installed and all that stuff. Any unexpected costs along the way that you...
We have had to do like repairs and additions and things, but nothing massive. I find that kind of, if you start with a clean slate and you do it right, like we used you guys, so it all happened correctly. But I'm imagining there would be some issues if you didn't know where to put different, cords, wires, all of that good stuff.
How much does a coffee caravan cost? Now, this is completely subjective to all the things we're covering. Now, you might be looking at that beautiful little retro thing. They can cost you anywhere from 30 grand up to $100,000. They can often not be cheaper necessarily than taking on a rental of a fixed location or a cafe. But that could be your dream, that could be the look and feel, and that could be the thing that actually gets people to come to you and attracts business to you. So there is value in anything if you're buying it that's going to help your brand and your look and your feel. But when you're buying them, there's definitely some cheap options that you can import. I have seen them. They are cheaper. They are not necessarily always built to Australian spec. There's some very sharp stainless edges in them, and a lot of the fittings won't be necessarily Australian standard. The pumps will be pretty small and need to be upgraded. So you might be saving money there, but if you do get it Australian built, you do get to communicate with the person. It's always great to build in Australia, and we want to make sure that you have a good connection point to the builders. There's some great coffee trailer builders around Australia at the moment that you can connect with. They're going to have fit outs already done in them. The power water waste is already ready to go. So your expense might really be dictated by how much you're able to do yourself, how confident you are that when you get it, you can modify it, or are you paying good money for a good build and that's ready to go. Now, I am also pretty impressed by the resale value of these caravans. So some of them have been able to sell the business at a good price. So it is something that I'm seeing. But in saying that, take a second, go on Facebook Marketplace and Google coffee trailers for sale. You will find a lot of them. They are a business that a lot of people don't necessarily stay in for a long time, and you might find that there is some bargains on there, or you'll get a feel for what people are reselling them for and what they're potentially worth. So definitely do your research in the market, whether it's a good thing or a bad thing that there's coffee trailers all for sale. How big a journey was it from seeing that trailer online and then to actually opening?
Yeah, so I think it took us about 3 months. We had the trailer just parked in our front yard while we slowly just worked on it. We did everything ourselves. Well, my partner did everything. Jacob helped a lot as well.
It was a 18-week build that kind of didn't go as smoothly as one would plan with the custom-built caravan.
A lot of people come to me, they're pretty keen to get started. I don't think I've ever seen a caravan being built in less than 16 weeks. That is an easy turnaround, and that's from the moment that you finally decide on all your fittings, all of the other things you want done. From that moment, we're talking 16 weeks. Now, I could be wrong. I definitely would talk to the suppliers, but I would probably double the timeline that they say. From my experience, it always pushes out. Then obviously you've got to allow for other services, like if you're installing equipment, coffee machines, you really need to factor in that. And if you're learning to make coffee, make sure you've done the coffee training and everything else you need to do before. So I would say definitely months, not weeks, and council is going to be another big chunk of time. You can do them at the same time, but definitely give yourself a good window of time. Don't rush it. Don't expect anything to happen too soon, because historically, it's not a fast process.
You do have limited resources, so power is sometimes an issue.
Yeah.
But we run a generator at one of our locations. The other one, we've got power.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, because I actually live on the property here, we're actually able to sort of come into the house, which actually was very helpful.
Sure. So you've got the setup where you've got the generator running out of the back, because you're obviously,
Yep, no power,
no power here. How do you find that day in, day out?
Pain in the ass, a lot of money.
Sure.
You know, you tie up $7,000 just buying the generator to run it.
Yeah.
We draw that many amps, we can't do solar. And you know, everybody says, oh, that's not bad, $18 a day. But $18 a day, every day, 6 days a week is a lot of money.
Yeah. Has it limited you on the equipment that you could use?
No, our generator's big enough, we can do whatever we want. We can put more electrical equipment in here.
Okay.
No problems at all.
Do you find, I guess, in the power side of things, I know when we're planning out things, people really underestimate power.
Yeah, absolutely.
And how hard that can be.
Yeah.
You've got a generator in the back of your car. Does that generator live in your car all the time?
Yeah, it lives in my car all the time. The petrol doesn't, obviously, because, it's a whole thing. But, I would always go on the bigger side with generators. I think people try to undershoot it.
Okay.
And I just wouldn't do it. We've had no issues with our generator being able to fuel this.
Yeah.
But I would just go on the bigger side.
Okay. Power. This is the thing that determines your equipment, but you will have to think about things like generators. If you're going to do events or if you don't have access to plug in, you do have to think about generators. Now that's going to be $6,000, 7, 8 plus for a simple generator that's going to give you the 15 amps you need for your machine and potentially others. What happens if that generator breaks? Have you got a backup generator? Can you afford 2 generators to have 2 on site? And while we're thinking about it, let's make sure that we have the phone number of the guy that's going to come fix your generator, or at least someone that you can get that sorted ASAP, because if you don't have power, you don't have a business. So we want to make sure that our power is really sorted out. We know exactly how much we need to run the whole van. We're not going to trip the power, and we've got that running. But you do have to consider the cost of that power. Generators aren't free to buy, nor are they free to run. You could be spending anywhere from $15 to $25, $30 a day just on fuel for your generator. So factor that into your budget for sure. And a lot of people will ask me, can I run it off solar? I haven't seen it done yet. If you do the maths, it just doesn't quite add up to run a coffee trailer from solar.
Or making sure you've got enough water for, depending on what you're going to do.
Sure.
Day-to-day operations is fine, but bigger events, we definitely need a refills.
Yeah, we've got a 200 litre tank. A lot of food trailers will only put a 100 litre tank on.
Yeah.
Because we do a lot of events in 2 days and water can be a bit an issue, I made sure, I've been doing it a long time.
Yeah.
I upgraded and asked for specifically 200 litre tank for water.
And then obviously water filtration as well. So I've done a few extra things there to make sure that the water quality.
Can you do the maths on how much water you'd probably need to do a good amount of few kilos of coffee? Is there a way to work out if I'm going to be doing
every 2 days we fill the tank up?
Okay. So, can you work that out by number of cups or anything? Is there any kind of maths?
No, because it's more the wash up that you use. The coffee doesn't use a lot of water.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, the coffee
the
uses,
other
but it's the cleaning, everything that, uses your water up.
Sure.
Like your milkshake, washing your milkshakes out, washing benches down all the time, cleaning, washing hands. It just uses all the water.
Water for me and coffee is really important for flavour, and it's something you need to consider for so many areas. Obviously, there's water for your taps for cleaning, there's water for the customers, but the water for the coffee machine needs to be filtered. If you're spending money on coffee equipment, let's make sure we're putting filtered water in there to look after the equipment, but also for the flavour. So how are you going to filter that? If you have access to water on site, you need to make sure that you're plugging into a way that you can filter that before it fills your tanks. So make sure you've thought about that either on site or back at home when you go to refill your tanks. Get yourself a little setup and you can run your water straight through the filters before it goes into the machine to make sure you get the life out of that machine and the coffee tastes great. And while we're on water, think about how much water you need. Do you do events? Do you go through a lot of water in a short amount of time? The maths on there is obviously very complicated and dictated by volumes and your menu as such. So I can't give you the maths on how much water you'll need, but you would need to talk to the suppliers about how much water is coming with the existing caravan. I have definitely had people add extra water tanks because really, you're going to need it. You don't want to run out of water, but remember that water is heavy and you need to think about your towing capacity with how much water. How heavy is your caravan with all of your tanks full? That might actually dictate the towing capacity of your car.
The biggest challenge I think for us is probably the fact that we have the little water tank there that we have to dump out of a couple of times a day. In the beginning it was just like maybe one dump, but as we're getting busier and more popular, we're sort of having to do that a few times a day.
In a cafe, we just walk out the back and chuck our milk bottles in there and our coffee grinds go out and normal things. But we have to consider what we're going to do with all of our waste. So milk bottles, any packaging, that needs to go into a bin. There's not really space in most caravans for a lot of bin space. I do find that people kind of have to put a bin out the back door. It's never a great look for customers. So think about how you're going to make that, I guess, visually appealing. And once you get home, where are you going to put that waste? Legally, councils want to know a plan for what you're going to do with that waste. You can't really just go home and dump all of your dirty milk, water, all over your grass every single day. You do need to consider that plan, and the councils may particularly ask you for that plan because you've got waste from your sink, waste from your coffee machine, there's going to be milk waste, and you don't really want to be taking all that home and dealing with it at home as such. So probably think about your plan as to how you're going to get rid of that waste at the end of every day. So did you buy the trailer fitted out? Did you do much of the work yourself?
No, I fitted it out myself. I extended the trailer myself.
You're right, okay.
So you've finally got your caravan, you're thinking about, you've got your coffee machine, installs coming along. Can you do it yourself? You potentially can, but just like any cafe or any scenario, we don't suggest it. Nor do we suggest you just get a Friggy or a Sparky to just slap it in there. It's a coffee machine. It's actually harder than a cafe. Cafes have space. They have benches. You can drill into things. Coffee trailers are quite hard to install. We've installed many of them. It's something that we do, but we have to plan them out. And they're definitely not cheaper than cafes. And they require a lot more planning. Particular equipment are better at being able to bolt through the feet, because remember, we need to bolt the machine down to the bench, same as the grinder. Quite often we have to do brackets onto equipment, so there's an extra work involved in building more structure around the equipment to make sure it's installed. Maybe we have to replace pumps, run new water lines. So it's a lot of work to install a coffee setup into a coffee trailer. It's also quite a unique space most of the time. Is your coffee machine at the end of the trailer? Are you trying to put it outside the window? So your workflow and layout is another consideration to make sure that you get the best workflow and best coffee service possible for you in the caravan, but also the best experience for the customer on the outside. So your install, definitely pre-plan it, definitely work with a professional coffee business that understands how to install coffee machines, because if it's done wrong and you don't have the right pump size or there's other issues with power, it will hinder the opening of your new coffee trailer for sure. At the end of the day, a lot of people are trying to run businesses and make themselves an income.
Yeah.
Do you feel like it's a hindrance on income to not have the offering of food and all of that, or is it balancing out as far as having a smaller offering and still being able to do it yourself?
I think a smaller offering, being able to do it yourself, makes enough money, and you're going to save thousands of dollars on the trailer in itself.
Obviously, financially owning a trailer's been able to support you and
very good income.
Do that? Great.
Very good income.
Any particular targets you're trying to hit, like weekly? You're trying to, I mean, it's not necessarily asking about money, but I guess just...
Yeah, I did start out with targets and we kept busting them, so I stopped doing it. Okay. We just let it grow as it kind of went, yeah.
Let's talk money. Are you going to make money running a coffee trailer? Like any business, we have to look at all of the cost, expenditures, and everything that's going into it, your labour, staffing, and that's like no other. I'd recommend doing a business plan for this, but let's just break it down a little bit. Now, let's think about best case scenario of you being at an event, you've got 100 people in your lineup, and how fast can you get those coffees out? What's the average spend per head? Do you have other things that they can grab and go? Do you have a full menu that you can, potentially make some more revenue from those 100 people in the lineup? And what does that look like? Does that require multiple staff? How much are those staff members per hour? And per hour breakdown, figure out potentially what you could make per person, how fast you'd be able to turn around that service. And that's going to be your best case scenario of earning income. Now, we've got to think about you being at a fixed location, or so being somewhere just on a normal, regular Monday morning. Now, Mondays are always a bit slow for anyone. And if it's a wet Monday morning and you're making a couple of coffees over the course of the day, what does that look like? And kind of averaging them out. So we need to think about best case scenario per hour. And if the maths doesn't add up, let's see where we can potentially save some costs on business expenses. Maybe you are over capitalizing on buying a big van that's actually going to have a lot of running costs versus a smaller van versus multiple staff. How effective can less staff be in that hour? So you need to do the maths on that. And then considering your daily fixed costs, like I said before, you've got the running costs of fuel, your council fees, your location fees or rental, and what does it cost for you to operate every day, and how much do you want to take home? How much are you looking for in the business for you to happily replace your current wage? This is a business that people come to me and they're leaving their well-paying corporate job. They look at the dream. It's usually during summer that they're looking at the dream of a coffee trailer, and that's the vision that they're seeing at the events. And that's great. It's great to be inspired, but how much do you need? How much money do you personally need as your income? And can we produce that on the down days and in the busy peak seasons? Even if you're flat out, does that give you the income that you need for your lifestyle? So what's my experience of coffee trailers? Over the past 5 years, I've been setting up cafes, I've been setting up coffee trailers and fielding inquiries across the board. Now, we get lots of people asking all of these questions, hence the video. And we want to make sure that we're setting you up for success and you're asking yourself all these questions. So if you do need my help, we're already ahead of it. Now, in my experience, coffee trailers have been one of the biggest inquiry points that we've ever had. We've shot videos before about coffee trailers. If you've seen them before, there's some great information out there, and they've given you probably the inspiration to do it yourself. And that might be why you're watching this video or you've inquired with us before. Now, I've probably had 100 inquiries. I reckon out of those 100 inquiries, I probably had 10 actually happen. Of those 10, I think there's probably 5 that are still operating. And of the 5, there's probably only 2 people in there that are the same operators that I actually set it up with. There is a high turnover of people. They tend to not stay in them for a long time, but there is people that it suits them and their lifestyle, and they love it. They stay there for years, they run a great business, and the ones that are there for a long time and they do build that reputation, they do quite well. They can sustain that business. They know what their regular trade is. They actually get a good cycle. So from my experience, it can be done, and it can be done well. I just think that the people that do it well are the ones that stick it out to the point where they're as good as a cafe. The regulars know where they're at. They know what they're going to get. The food, the drinks, the coffee, everything's consistent. And people love to see you yes, you might staff it, but I find that coffee trailers are best run by people that are people. They want to talk to other people. They want to enjoy that interaction, because it is a very personal experience going to a coffee trailer as opposed to sitting in a cafe. If you're that kind of person, that might really suit you, and that's who I think is best in it. So my experience has been that the better ones are run by people that love other people and want to get amongst it and are happy to work a bit harder, but they don't all work. But there has been many happy endings to lots of people's journeys on a coffee trailer, and that's what I call it. It is a journey from the idea to the conception of actually being open and trading is a journey. So from my experience, they don't all work. You've just got to put the time and effort into them, and if it's the kind of business model that suits you, you can pull it off. Now the big question is, would I personally own a coffee trailer? Now, I love specialty coffee. I would love to use a Lamazocco machine. I would have multiple grinders. I'd probably have single origins on offer. I won't have a batchy. I've already well and truly exceeded the power that I probably could have access to in a coffee trailer. So straight away, what I would like to offer in a coffee business for myself would not suit the equipment that I could put in a coffee trailer. Now, I could be wrong. I could find a great site that I have access to power and I can plug in and I can achieve those things. Obviously, I can't move once I was to do that, but I hate the idea of generators. Generators are noisy and smelly and petrol and all the lot. So I just don't personally love the idea of having a generator in the back of my car or towing one. It's just not something I'd want to deal with. And also, I don't love the idea of setting up and packing up every single day. I like to have my things in order, and I would like to have a space that's mine and I own it. But if I wake up early, the last thing I would want to do is go and hook up a caravan, restock, and do all those things so early that I could actually get to my site to have it all functioning and ready. I would much rather use that time to be in a cafe dialing in my specialty coffee equipment. So that for me personally would be a frustration, that I'm using a lot of time that I'd rather be spending dialing coffee while I'm actually setting up my caravan. I personally don't mind towing, but it sounds like a nightmare to me to be towing every single day and having that attached to my personal car. So not to mention, I'm actually 6'6", so I actually don't really fit in coffee trailers. So it's not necessarily the ideal environment for someone of my height. Okay, so if I was going to do a coffee trailer, I'd buy a 10-foot coffee trailer. Ideally, I'd find a location that I could plug into power, water and waste, and try to get myself 20 amps of power, so I can at least have a 2-group dual boiler machine and the extra equipment I need. The 10 foot would probably be enough for me, because I'd just do a small grab and go scenario. I'd do coffee. I'd really want to find a main road with great parking just outside of town, just close to town, that I'm still residential. You really want to capture the daily morning coffee. The high seasons of holiday locations or tourist locations wouldn't be enough for me to weekly create that income and create the customers that I need to sustain the business. So I would very much be relying on local trade and benefiting in holiday season, but I wouldn't be comfortable relying on holiday season in a beautiful location. I would probably compromise on location just to make sure that I get that daily foot traffic. And I got 3 young kids. I want to be home on the weekend. So I don't really see myself having a cafe. I don't own one right now. I love supporting our cafes and I love doing what I do, but I need the flexibility. I couldn't be personally locked into having to tow a business in and out every single day. So I have to consider that for my lifestyle. You would have to think about that for yours. So personally, I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't personally have a coffee trailer, because it doesn't suit me and my idea of a great coffee business, and it doesn't suit my personal lifestyle. But that's just me. You have to consider all of these things for yourself if that's the suitable business for you. Any other advice for anyone that's looking at buying a coffee trailer?
I'd do it. Wouldn't think twice about it. If we were a little younger, we'd certainly be going for another 5 years with this.
Okay. Would you do it all over again?
Probably, yeah. Yeah, I would do it again. Yeah, cool. I think So,
All right.
yeah.
What do you think are the best parts about owning the coffee trailer?
The versatility of being going around and meeting different people. Like I meet people all over the place. Like the last week, it's been a lot of European people.
Okay.
Right, which I find really good. I love meeting people from different parts of the world. I travel a bit, so I love it.
So, okay, the big question is, would you do it all again?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is such a good gig. It's like really simple in the sense that I show up, I make coffee. People are very happy usually to get their coffee.
Yep.
I go home, I don't continue to work once I'm home.
Sure.
So there's very little admin and bookkeeping and ordering, and that kind of stuff is really streamlined. So I will say it's a business that lets you have a really nice quality of life.
Okay. All in all, these can be a great flexible business for you. It could be a really low cost entry into the market. It could be your step into coffee, and I've seen some really great results from people owning caravans and moving into cafes. It could be how you do that and how you grow in coffee and the next best step for you and your lifestyle. Have I covered everything? Have we got everything in this video? I'd love to know your feedback on, if you have a caravan, what things that I've missed. If you're looking at coffee businesses, what things are you considering? Has this been helpful? Tell me in the comments below whether I've hit the mark, what I've missed, what you think I should be considering. Tell us about your coffee trailer. If you own a coffee business, give us an idea of what has worked for you, what you do like about it. Make sure you put the name of your business in there. We love to check them out, and the community should check out the different businesses in the comments because it can be a successful business. It just needs to suit you. Consider everything that we've talked about in this video, and I hope it's been helpful. Please subscribe to the channel. There's heaps of content in this channel for coffee trailers, for coffee enthusiasts, for anyone setting up a coffee business. We'd love to be the person that helps you achieve that dream. So thanks again, subscribe, like the video, hit the bell icon, and I'll see you next time. Thanks guys, bye.